go now, baby. Welcome to another edition of Pound for Pound Picks, proudly presented by Bet99. This time we'll be taking a look at a pretty good-looking fight night card in Saudi Arabia. It will actually be a fight day card for those of us in North America. So set your schedule up accordingly. Block off some time to check out these fights in the morning and in the afternoon. So it's just not me breaking down these fights. We're bringing in one of the big guns, veteran of the UFC and the PFL, the Canadian gangster, Olivier Aubin-Mercier. Olivier, how are you?
I'm good. I'm happy that it's those kind of event during the day. Can take a little beer, like during the day. It's accepted, socially accepted beer.
I like it too. I'm on the East Coast up here in Canada, and these pay-per-view cards go to all hours of the night, especially if you had a bunch of decisions and it screws up the next day. So yeah, I have some time set aside in my calendar, blocked off to sit down and watch some fights. So we're going to break down the top 3 fights on the card. I also have another best bets from the prelims to give out. Then I want to get your thoughts on the big middleweight title fight next week between Dricus du Plessis and Sean Strickland. But let's start with the main event here for this fight night card in Saudi Arabia. A very interesting fight here. Israel Adesanya makes his return. This is his first non-title fight in about 6 years. And he's coming in as a minus 170 favorite over at Bet99 against Nassourdine Imavov, who comes back as a plus 130 underdog. The over-under round set at 4.5, with the over juiced all the way up to minus 200. So odds makers are expecting a longer fight. So Adesanya, what's the story of the fight? He's lost 2 of his last 3 fights, with the 2 losses coming to Sean Strickland. That was considered a big-time upset at the time. And of course, last time out, he got finished versus Dricus du Plessis. Now, I thought he was looking pretty decent in that fight. I thought he was building some momentum right up until the point where he did get submitted later on in the fight. Imavov comes in pretty hot here, 3 straight wins against Brendan Allen, Jared Cannonier, and Roman Dolidze. So how am I going to bet the main event? I'm going to take Israel Adesanya. I don't like the 170 number, though, so I'm going to go into the prop market. I'm going to take him to win by decision at plus 140. So I don't think that there's a significant threat of a takedown. I think that this fight is mainly going to be contested on the feet. And I think Adesanya is going to use that pinpoint striking of that 5-inch reach advantage to his advantage. I think he's going to be able to outpoint him over the course of the 5 rounds. And I don't think this is a case of, sometimes you see this with these former champions. They're totally washed up, or they're coming off of a brutal knockout and they're taking on a rising contender. Imavov, absolutely a great fighter, but I still think Adesanya has something left in the tank here. And this is a pretty big step up in competition for Imavov as well. Olivier, how do you see this one going down?
Well, I have to be honest with you. I think I like the odds for Adesanya. So I will go straight for Adesanya personally. And the reason is the KO could be here anyway, We saw that against Pereira, and Pereira is the best striker in the world. For sure, he commit himself a little bit more than Imavov, but still, I think the danger of a KO is still there. So I will go straight bet Adesanya for me. Like you said, I have trouble seeing Imavov doing wrestling with him. I see this fight going on the feet, and for sure, there's a lot of chance that it's gonna go to decision. But still, I won't take a chance. I'm just gonna go straight Israel on this one.
Yeah, I do think he has a lot left in the tank. Maybe not. I don't know. How did you feel? Did you think that fight? How did you think he did against DDP right up until the point where he got submitted? I thought he had some momentum going.
Doug, this is classic DDP,
It's hard to figure out.
Not that great, and then win for out of nowhere. It's always like this with DDP. So, I bet for DDP in that fight, and that was the reason. Even though he looked tired, for some reason he's still dangerous. And for me, the big danger against DDP was the ground, and that what happened. But against Imavov, I don't really see the same kind of stuff. DDP is crazy strong. Imavov is more a technical fighter. He's well-rounded. You know, he's
Sure.
more well-rounded than Adesanya, but I do think on the feet, Adesanya, like you said, have the advantage on the reach, on the technique. He's calmer. So I have a hard time seeing Imavov winning this one. Like, you know, Imavov, you don't put a lot of pressure. And I think the way to beat Israel is to put him against the fence. And I don't think Nassourdine is gonna do that, you know, because he's not used to it. And it's kind of like it's something to have someone like Israel in front of you, you know.
Absolutely. Okay, let's drop down to the co-main event here. Two guys with different sorts of hype coming into this fight. So we have Shara Bullet Magomedov, minus 200 over at Bet99, taking on Michael Venom Page. Two great nicknames, by the way. Venom Page comes back at plus 150. The over-under rounds, 2.5. Odds makers expecting a long one here. Over 2.5 at minus 230. Odd. So what's the story here? Magomedov remains undefeated in his career at 15-0. He is 4-0 in the UFC, 2 knockouts, 2 decision victories. He's pretty aggressive. He lands 6.82 significant strikes per minute. Now, Michael Venom Page came into the UFC. He has a really good highlight reel, to be fair, but his 2 fights in the UFC have been pretty underwhelming. He's 1-1, a win versus Kevin Holland, a loss versus Ian Gary. Both of those fights did go to decision. Once again, I'm going to take a fight to go to decision here, Olivier. I'm going to take Magomedov to remain undefeated, and I'll take him to win by decision at plus 120. So I think this is kind of a classic case of you have an ascending fighter and a descending fighter. There's a 7-age gap between these guys. And Magomedov is obviously the much more aggressive fighter. And I think if this is one of these boring fights, I think the guy who's more aggressive, I do think that comes out better in the eyes of the judges here. As I said, he lands almost 7 significant strikes per minute in his 4 UFC fights. Meanwhile, for Venom Page, just 62 total significant strikes landed across his 2 fights in the UFC, 30 minutes total in the octagon. What I will say about Michael Venom Page, though, this is a guy who is hard to put away. He's only been put away once in his career. That was in 2019. He even went the distance with Mike Perry in a bare knuckle fight. So he is tough here, but I'm going to go with the more aggressive guy, the guy who's 7 years younger. What do you make of the co-main event here?
I think I will go with Michael Page on this one.
Okay.
Yeah. A little different approach. I see this. It's a lot of Muay fighter have trouble with the karate style, you know, especially in MMA. So how I see that it's gonna be hard for Magomedov to close the distance, and Michael Page showed that he's still there, you know, against Ian Gary. I mean, Ian had to put it against the fence and try to take him down. And I do think Michael Page was better than Ian on the feet, and that happened a lot against karate fighter and Muay Thai. You know, they don't understand really the quickness of the karate style. So I do see Michael Page winning this one. I think the way to beat him is to put him down. I don't think Magomedov is gonna do that. And let's be honest, you know, Magomedov is really, really, really good. He have one eye though. You know what I mean? So I do think that could be really dangerous if he attack this side. So I'm gonna go with Michael Page on this one. I like Magomedov, but man, just because of the style, for me, this is a classic karate against Muay Thai, and Magomedov is not known for his ground game. Actually, I think they protected him before to not go with against a wrestler. So I do see Michael Page winning this one.
Yeah, perhaps the fight is a little bit closer than these odds indicate, and step up in competition here for Bullet. Absolutely. Okay, so I don't think this next fight is going to go the distance. Heavyweight fight between Sergei Pavlovich. He's up to minus 340 over at Bet99, taking on Jairzinho Rozenstruik, who comes back at plus 250. So the over-under rounds for this one set at 1.5. The under on that at minus 2. 25. So it wasn't long ago where Sergei Pavlovich was taking on Tom Aspinall in a fight. I think the odds were relatively close for that one. Pavlovich started his career at 18-1, just red hot. Then he runs into Aspinall. He ends up getting finished in the first round of that fight. Then he tries to follow that up against Alexander Volkov, and he got upset in that one. Maybe some attenuating circumstances. People talked about how they were training partners and whatnot. But either way, he is coming off 2 straight losses here. This is an ultra-aggressive heavyweight who both lands and absorbs over 5 significant strikes per minute. So he's in there for a good time, not a long time. And Olivier, I'm going to take him to bounce back here. You got to get creative, though. You got to go into the prop market. I don't like giving out minus 340 bets. So I'm going to take him to do something that he's done a lot in his career, and that's to win the fight in the first round of the fight. You can bet that at minus 105 odds. So he's finished 6 separate opponents in the first round since joining the UFC. 21 career fights. In 15 of those, he finished his opponent in the first round. And when the level of competition rises for Rozenstruik, it really has not gone very well for him at all. He's been finished in the first round versus Almeida, Volkov, and Francis Ngannou. Most of his better performances in the UFC have come against aging guys or entry-level heavyweights. Some of these guys aren't even in the UFC anymore. So I like Pavlovich to bounce back here. Do you?
Yeah, I think you're right, actually. Pavlovich in first round is pretty good. I think I'm gonna go with you on this one. I think it's you exactly said what I thought.
Well, sometimes it's not as easy as it looks on paper, but if you just look at the patterns of these guys, I don't all of a sudden think Pavlovich is going to become a super cautious fighter here. He's going up against another striker as well, too, right?
Yeah, but that's the thing, though. I think that's the danger. If Pavlovich don't have the same amount of confidence as his his last fight, because he lost 2 in a row, that could be a problem. But if we see the old Pavlovich, I think Sergei in the first round is the way to go. But the only thing I'm scared, like I said, if he's getting a little bit scared of, I don't know, not putting the work like he used to. We saw that with Ngannou, in the past. So losing against the Beast, which was not a good one, And Ngannou was known to put everybody out, and he didn't do a thing for 3 rounds. So that's would be maybe the only thing. But if Pavlovich is doing himself, it's gonna go first round KO for sure.
Yeah, if you're going to bet on him, I think that is the way to go. Okay, so there's one more bet I like on this card. We're going to go for the prelims here, not household names here by any means, but we have a featherweight fight between Bogdan Grad and Lucas Alexander. And straight up, I think we're just getting a good number here on the under 2.5 rounds at minus 115. We have 2 very aggressive guys, neither of them a very good defensive fighter. Both of them have been on the right and wrong end of finishes in fights under the UFC banner. Grad in particular, I've seen 7 of his last 9 fights get finished inside of 2.5 rounds. His last fight was on the Dana White Contender Series, and I talked about he's not a good defensive fighter. He was on the wrong end of 155 significant strikes in a 3-round fight. Alexander, his career's going in the wrong direction. He was both KO'd and subbed in 2 of his last 3 fights. So I think a good number, under 2.5 rounds in that one. So I'm not going to have a chance to speak to you ahead of the pay-per-view next weekend, Olivier. I'm going to be in New Orleans doing some stuff for the Super Bowl. So I got to get your opinion on the main event now. Dricus du Plessis, minus 210 now against Sean Strickland, plus 160. Now, these guys fought last January in Toronto. Some people had the fight going to Strickland. I had to go into du Plessis. I picked du Plessis to win that fight. He lands more. He lands heavier. He lands at a higher accuracy. I like him again here. If you're looking at like betting value, though, I could see some people arguing like, hey, listen, last time these guys fight, it was practically a pick 'em. I think Strickland might have been a small favorite at certain points leading up to that fight, but now he's there at plus 160, so I can't fault anyone if they want to go with Strickland. So who do you think won the first fight, and what do you think of the fight this time around?
I think it was really close. I would go with Plessis too. I thought he won the first fight, and I thought Sean Strickland was not himself in this fight. And I really don't like to bet for the guy that lost the first fight, but I'm gonna do it this time. I think I'm gonna go with Sean Strickland. I think he was not himself. I think now he's gonna know about the takedowns. I think he's gonna be more aggressive too. Dricus du Plessis is really tricky because he get tired, but he's still dangerous. But I still think is the way to beat him is to be in his face, even though he's tired and dangerous. And I think that's what Sean Strickland is gonna do: put a lot of pressure on him and attack more. For some reason he was really different before the fight and during the fight. The last time they met. So I hope we're gonna see the old school Sean Strickland a little bit how we saw him at the end of the fight. And I think technically Sean Strickland should win this one,
Yeah.
But he's so freaking strong. It's really hard to. There's so many highlights of him like doing those crazy technique that should not work. And I have to go against him on this one. I would go for him if he was the underdog, but he's not, and he's minus 210. I really don't like that. I think Sean Strickland. I think it's a 50-50 match.
Yeah, like I said, it's quite a swing in the line compared to the first fight. And look how incredibly close the first fight was. If it was a different set of judges that night, who knows? Maybe Sean Strickland would have got his hand raised that time around. But these guys will run it back next Saturday in Australia. So we can't wait for that one. So Olivier, we will leave it at that for today. We'll be sure to be catching up with you for plenty more big fights of Fight Night cards and some pay-per-views as 2025 continues. So thank you to joining. Thank you to all the viewers for watching. Make sure you head on over to Bet99 to lock your bets in.